Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. Today, we're going to tackle my 10 favorite albums from a pretty weird band, a band that kind of almost defies categorization. They are themselves. Gong, originally from France. I guess you can call them psychedelic rock, space rock, trippy rock, progressive rock, whatever. It's Gong, right? There's like no other band like them. Founded in the late 60s. Their debut album was released in 1970. They've been going strong all throughout the years with bouts of inactivity, name changes, different lineups, different factions. I mean, the Gong family tree is kind of like the Hawkwind family tree, so to speak. There's all these configurations and whatnot. But to me, as long as it's got Gong in the title, I'm going to kind of count it. But I'm going to pick my favorites. It might kind of cross over the lines a little bit here and there. But it's the way it goes, right? So, again, they have lots of albums, tons of albums. I got my top 10. I've got most of them on hard copy CD, so I'll show them when I have them. There's just a couple that I don't own. But we'll start off with my number 10. So, number 10 is from 2000, Zero to Infinity. One of the latter period albums. You know, they haven't cranked out a lot of albums in recent years, but this one still kind of sounds a bit like classic Gong. It's got that the psychedelic sound. It's got that jazzy sound, which was very prevalent in like the mid-late 70s. Some great songs on here. You got the big epic Invisible Temple. Really cool, spacey, jazzy. You got DJ Malherbe's sax all over the album, which is really nice. In fact, there's a lot of sax on this album. Zeroid is another great track. The Mad Monk and Damaged Man, all really solid songs, and that kind of explains the album. It's a really solid album. One thing I do miss Steve Hillage's guitar. There's not a ton of guitar solos on the album. It's very kind of light, whimsical, jazzy. The sax seems to be taking like center stage as far as instrumentation and solos, which is totally cool. But I miss, Gong was always really interesting when you had some kind of virtuoso guitar solos going through the songs. Really not much on this album, but it's still a very pleasant listen, so I dig it. Coming in at number 9 is going to be their debut. This may shock some people because I know there are a lot of fans who, real longtime Gong fans who absolutely love that debut album. I like it. I don't love it. But I think it definitely has its moments, and you can kind of see where the band was going very shortly thereafter. It's called Magic Brother. Came out in 1970. To me, it's a tad, I hate to use this term, but it's just when I listen to this album, kind of hippy-drippy. All right? Not really in a bad way. It's just, I think they're still trying to find their sound. I almost kind of feel the same way about the first Soft Machine album. It's just not really, the band hasn't really hit their stride yet, but it's got its moments. Rational Anthem is a cool tune. Pretty Miss Titty. Did he just say that? Yes, it is. That's the name of the song. The title track I like a lot. The Gong song is pretty cool. And 'Cause You Got Green Hair is pretty fun and kind of whimsical. In fact, the whole album is really whimsical and trippy, and there's a certain charm to it. But definitely David Allen's hands are all over this album. I mean, he, was the driving force in the band for the first, handful of albums for sure. And this album totally, you could almost call it a David Allen solo album. And he's, like I said, he's the driving force on the album. And his vocals, and he plays the glissando guitar and all that kind of stuff. It's a fun album. It's just, to me, it's got its charm, but I can't. To me, it's not the serious effort that some of the ones that are coming shortly after it are. Coming in at number 8, we're gonna go with 2016's Rejoice, I'm Dead. Okay, first album after the passing of David Allen. New lineup, featuring some old and new members. Still feels and sounds like a Gong album to me, though. Rejoice, title track, I guess you can kind of call it the title track, is like old school psychedelic space rock. Really dig it. Capital, Model Village is a really cool song. The Unspeakable Stands Revealed. All really good. On the CD, it's broken up into 4 sides, so I guess it's almost like they want to call this like a double album. But I like it. I think it's a good, considering it's the first thing they had done in a little bit, and David had just passed away, so some of the things that he added to this album were recorded prior to his death. But you've got folks on here like Ian East and Fabio Galfetti, Cheb Nettles, Dave Sturt, Karis Tarabi, Didier Malherbe, like I said before. Who else is here? Like I said, David does show up on a couple tracks here, but that's the basis of the band. And back to hearing some cool guitar in the band, lots of interesting little sound effects and spacey things. So pretty cool. So that is my number 7. My number 8, I'm going to go with their second album, which I never had a hard copy of, but I always kind of dug, and in fact, I just ordered one, so it should be here. It'll probably show up here tomorrow after I've already done the show. But it's Camembert Electrique from 1971, their second album. Lots and lots of space on this one, boys and girls. This is a pretty, this album is out there, but it's fun. Faux Hat digs holes in space. Chilling stuff, eerie guitar and keyboard effects. You got the space jazz of I've Been Stoned, B-I-N Stoned, before. You got the quirky and weird You Can't Kill Me, which has a pretty playful vocal from David Allen, and complex arrangements. You got the flighty Tropical Fish / Celine, which has Didier's sax, squonking all over the place. The wacky I Am Your Animal. You got kind of like a psychedelic hard rock track, which is called Try So Hard. To me, it's kind of like it's a playfully odd album, but that's the appeal of it. A lot of this stuff is kind of like that, but this album, this is the album that comes right before the Radio Gnome trilogy. Okay, so in a lot of ways, it's kind of the precursor to that. Fun stuff. All right, so number 6, we're going to go with, speaking of the Radio Gnome trilogy, how about the second part of that, which is called Angel's Egg. All right, most folks who are into Gong probably are pretty familiar with these albums. Spacey synthesizers, jazzy sax, weird vocalizations, and bits of fiery guitar all over the place. Other Side of the Sky kind of floats, bobs, and weaves, upbeat, and kind of funky. Soul to the Highest Buddha, not to the highest bidder, the highest Buddha. You got the whimsical prostitute poem. You got the really charming melodies on a great song called Celine. You got the wonderful flute salad. What else we got on here? The deep grooves on the harder rocking Oily Way. I never glide before is kind of quirky. There's this quirkiness about all the Gong albums, which I think is pretty enchanting at times. It's not like a band I can listen to for hours and hours on end straight, but I like to pop on an album by Gong every so often. What else? You got the really bizarre Eat That Phone Book coda, which has lots of jazz rock stuff going on. Jazz rock and jazz fusion, which ironically a few years later is where the band really starts to go down that road. Another fun, but weird album. It's a weird album, but it is fun. It is fun. All right, next up, number 5. We're going to go with 1976's Shamal. 6th album, kind of the transitional album from the David Allen configuration to the Pierre Moerlin lineup. Okay, of course, he was the drummer with the band for a number of years. Excellent one, I might add. Produced by Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. All right, this brings styles of the early psychedelic space rock with the jazz rock tendencies that we're going to see, especially on the next 2 albums, but even further out than that. You got Wingful of Eyes, killer song, strong rock feel to it, but it's still quirky, still quite jazzy, with some killer Steve Hillage guitar solos. I mean, if you like Hillage, you like his solo stuff, man, he's all over some of these Gong albums in a big way. Chandra is blazing jazz rock with a hint of Zappa quirkiness. You got the wonderful flute-driven Bambooji. You got killer fusion on the title track. You got the complex Cat and Clark shoes. Really, really strong album if you get the the remaster, you get a live show from the Marquee in London from 1975, which is pretty cool. I like this album a lot. I think this is a very underrated album from Gong. Again, kind of like a transition album, but still pretty cool. Next up, we're going to go number 5. We're going to go with Flying Teapot. Pretty cool album. Again, this is the start of the Radio Gnome trilogy. All right, album number 1. The band embracing their psychedelic origins, but incorporating lots of jazz and rock elements into their music. And this is the first album to feature Steve Hillage on guitar, though he doesn't have a lot to do on this album. I think he kind of joined the band right when they were, putting the finishing touches on this album. So he really doesn't appear that much on here as opposed to the 2 that come after it. Radio Gnome Invisible, wacky fun, great sax synthesizers. Very strange, odd vocals, which you can say for most of these albums. You got the epic title track, killer psychedelic jazz rock, really wacky, but very, very interesting musically. Lots of things going on. You got the zany, the Pothead Pixies, right? A lot of fun. The dreamy space rock of Zero the Hero, not to be confused with the Black Sabbath song. Zero the Hero and the Witch's Spell. You got the wah-wah guitars. And Geely Smith's pixie vocals of Witch's Son / I Am Your Pussy. Yes, these are all, like I said, all really weird song titles and lyrics, and just the music is really weird. Like I said, there's nothing like Gong. But this is a really good album, one of those albums that needs to be heard to be believed. I remember before I knew anything about Gong, and lots of people talking about, oh, Gong, got to get into Gong, get into Gong. And then like the first couple of years, I was like, man, I don't know if I can get into this stuff. This is even too weird for me. But over time, it started to wear me down, and I'm like, you know what? I can totally see the appeal of these guys. But as I said, not an everyday listen band for me. But when I'm in the mood, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. All right, next up, number 3, we're going to go with the third of the Radio Gnome trilogy. Last album with David Allen lineup for many years, You from 1974. Nice mix of weirdness on here, shorter tunes mixed with longer tunes. Master Builder, terrific proggy jazz rock with some scorching saxophone and great lead guitar from Mr. Hillage. You got A Sprinkling of Clouds, incredible song. What else you got on here? Quirky, Perfect Mystery, the psychedelic space rock of the Isle of Everywhere, which is really dreamy and kind of jazzy. You got some terrific Hillage guitar on that one. You got the more expansive kind of space rocky, You Never Blow Your Trip Forever. Love the synths on this album. And, Allen's odd vocals, like I said, have a certain charm to them. Such a weird yet insanely fun album. This takes Hawkwind of the same period and throws an extra helping dollop of weirdness on the top. So you've got all this wacky shit going on, blips and bleeps from synths and searing guitars, and then these just kind of flighty vocals, and it's all really bizarre. But it's Gong, right? And that's Gong. So from there, we're going to move into my top 2. My top 2, I'm trying to escape these glare here. My top 2 are very different albums from those. So David Allen has left the band. They reconfigure under Pierre Moerlin. Okay, they're insanely good drummer and percussionist for a series of albums that initially were just called Gong albums, but then they, Pierre Moerlin's Gong, later on, those kind of what they became. But to me, these are the greatest things this band has ever done. So the first one from 1978 is number 2 for me. It's called Expresso II. 8th album overall from Gong, 2nd under the Pierre Moerlin's Gong stable. This is total instrumental jazz rock. The previous album, which I'll get to in a minute, had Alan Holdsworth featured exclusively on lead guitar. Also co-wrote a lot of the tracks. He's on here, but he's only on about half the album. He's already moved on to other things by 1978. Of course, UK and Bruford and all that other stuff, right? So here he's on a couple tracks. You got Mick Taylor, ex of the Rolling Stones, on here. Bon Lozago also contributes lead guitar. Bon would be a part of another version of Gong later on called Gongzilla. Yes, it gets complicated. You got Darrell Way, violinist of Curved Air, appears on here. Vibraphone and drums appear very prominently in the arrangements on these albums in a big way. but still you got lots of guitar and other things. Great bass playing too. You got Heavy Tune is a really great song that kicks off the album, and that's got a really nice sinewy guitar solo, lots of guitar lines from Mick Taylor. You got Golden Dilemma, which is a groove-laden machine with lots of percussion and killer bass playing from Hansford Rowe, who is, to me, kind of like the MVP of this album. He's so good on here. You've got a wonderful guitar solo from Lazago, also on that song. You got Holdsworth shows up on Sleepy. There ain't nothing sleepy about his guitar solo on that one. And then you got another song called Soli, S-O-L-I, Soli. Another winner with really atmospheric grooves, another stunner of a solo from Holdsworth. You got a song called Boring, which is anything but boring. Got this great violin solo from Way, and then Three Blind Mice, which is really quirky, and it's got some more fantastic gymnastic bass from Hansford Rowe, and a blazing solo from Holdsworth. So this is really good, amazing album. Only bested, in my opinion, by my number one, which is their 7th album, first one with Pierre as the leader. It's called Gazeuse. All right. Alan Holdsworth plays a major role in this album. It's one of his great performances. Benoit Moerlin plays vibes, okay, and of course him and I'm assuming the brothers, right, really kind of take over the sound going into the next few albums. You've got total jazz fusion for the most part on this album. You got the soaring Night Illusion, which is pretty damn incredible. Espresso is killer. Great Holdsworth playing on that. Percolations Part 1 and 2 with some amazing drum and vibe stuff going on there. And then you got Shadows of, which Holdsworth just absolutely destroys on that one. An incredible album. Call it prog, call it jazz fusion, jazz rock, doesn't really matter. Great stuff. I really dig it. So that's my favorite Gong. That is my number one. So there you have it, everybody. Gazeuse from 1976, number one. Expresso II coming in at number 2. You coming in at number 3. Number 4 is the Flying Teapot. Number 5 is Shamal. Number 6 is, hold on, I want to make sure I got my order right here. Number 6 is Angel's Egg. Number 7 is Camembert Electrique. Number 8 is Rejoice, I'm Dead. Number 9 is Magic Brother. And number 10 is Zero to Infinity. There you have it, everybody. In the comments below, please list your... Jesus, this is ridiculous. List your favorite Gong albums in the order that you prefer. All right, remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm sure there's going to be folks who, love the early stuff way more than anything else. I'm sure there's folks who just like the fusion-y stuff, right? So, all depends on what you dig, right? So, and I will say I didn't include it here, but, and I probably should have because it's really good. But this is the Gongzilla album I was talking about. It's called Suffer. This, I almost included this, although this might be kind of a stretch to call. Well, you know what? It's got Bon Lazaga, Hansford Rowe, Benoit Moerlin, Alan Holdsworth, Bobby Thomas, Lionel Cordu, Vic Stevens, and Ben Parowski. So I guess technically you could call it a Gong album, right? Even though it's Gongzilla, not just Gong. But this is excellent. You got Bon Lazaga and Holdsworth trading off solos like crazy. Really cool stuff. So I probably, now that I think about it, this probably should have been in place of one of the bottom ones on my list, and maybe even a little higher, because this is really good. So this is my kind of honorable mention here that should and maybe could be on that list. So there you have it, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time, alongside with this stupid glare. Boop, there we go. I'm going to pop inside and out of it. I can't escape it. I just can't escape it. It's that sun coming through the window. It's crazy. But anyway, there you go. All about Gong here on Sea of Tranquility today. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching. We got more stuff coming up, so stay tuned, and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.